name's Hideout and welcome to the Pantheon, where we're going to be having a look at a rather nice dwarvish legendary. Really quite cool, and he cares a lot about spirits. He's a nice guy. It's Hofri Ghostforge, and he weighs in at 5 mana. And I think Hofri really sounds like it should be a coffee brand, you know, Hofri's coffee. Probably quite delicious, to be honest with you. Anyway, he's a legendary dwarf cleric. And spirits you control get +1/+1 and have trample and haste. So he's an interesting little lord, but the main reason we want to play him is the next line. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, accept it's a spirit in addition to its other types, and it has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exile card to your graveyard. So he acts as a nice bit of board wipe protection, and you can double every enter the battlefield effect that you have going on. Really quite cool. And he's a 4/5, so, you know, if he wants to get a bit dangerous, he can do. This deck's really quite cool, and it takes red-white in a different sort of direction, which is always nice to see. So without further ado, let's have a look at number 5. It's Angelic Renewal. A very, very similar effect to Joffrey's main sort of... Hofri? Hofri's main ability, but this has some nice combo potential. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may sacrifice Angelic Renewal. If you do, return that card to the battlefield. So what does this work very well with? Shepherd of the Cosmos is a 6 mana Angel Warrior 4/4 with flying and foretell, meaning you can set it aside for 2 mana and then cast it for the reduced cost on a later turn. When it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And Sun Titan is a 6 mana 6/6 with vigilance. When it enters the battlefield or attacked, you may return target permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, using Angelic Renewal, that's on the field. We have one of these come in, or, you know, we sacrifice it, triggering Angelic Renewal. Angelic Renewal will bring back Sun Titan or Shepherd of the Cosmos. They will trigger, put the Angelic Renewal back on the battlefield, and then we can sacrifice it again. So, if we use a card like Goblin Bombardment, which is a 2 mana enchantment, says sacrifice a creature. Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Every one of our opponents will die as this loop just keeps going and keeps going until we stop it. Which is pretty good. Having our opponents fall over is always part of the plan. To go along with this, Sun Titan and the Shepherd are both fantastic with any sort of land that sacrifices itself. Sunbaked Canyon is a land that you can pay 1 life to add a red or a white, or you can pay 1, tap it, sacrifice it, draw a card. So using these, where you can enter the battlefield, mainly with Sun Titan when he attacks, you can get a card draw every single turn. Arid Mesa is a land that you can pay 1 life, sacrifice it, search your library for a mountain or plains card, put onto the battlefield, then you shuffle your library. Using these, you can get this land back and ramp yourself each turn and slowly thin out the deck. Finally, Selfless Spirit, nice bit of board wipe protection, 2 mana for a 2/1 with flying, can sacrifice it, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Very, very cool, and it's a nice little build around that we can put into this deck, and it just, you know, it kills our opponents. Coming in at number 4, we have Terror of the Peaks. So we're going to be having things entering, and then when they die, they re-enter again. So Terror of the Peaks, it's a great little dude to have. It's removal, it can ping our opponent, and it protects itself, you know, using one of its abilities. It's a 5 mana 5/4, spells your opponent's cast target Terror of Peaks, cost an additional 3 life to cast. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So, why is this better than a couple of the enchantment versions of this, Where Ancients Tread, Warstorm Surge? It's because if our opponents wipe the board, we're going to get a token back of this card. It's as simple as that. Where Ancients Tread is a 5 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature with power 5 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Where Ancients Tread deal 5 damage to target creature or player. And Warstorm Surge, 6 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. These can really ping our opponents to death, you know. If we're constantly having things enter the battlefield that are massive, we're going to be dealing a lot of damage. Combustible Gearhulk is one of those sort of cards. 6 mana for a 6/6 with First Strike. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If that player doesn't, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and Combustible Decay Hulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converting mana cost. So we are going to be playing quite a lot of big things, so this could do some serious damage. And then we get to do it all over again when it dies, because we get a token. Very, very cool. But what big creatures or big power are we looking for? Nova Chaser is a 4 mana 10/2 with Trample and Champion Elemental. When this comes into play, sacrifice it unless you remove another elemental you control from the game. When this leaves play, that card returns to play. So this card is what steered me down this entire elemental package for this deck. 10 power is a lot for 4 mana. And the Champion Elemental, okay, so if we don't have an elemental, it dies and it comes back straight away as a spirit that will be an 11/3 with Trample and Haste. Okay, if we don't have that, but it sacrifices it again, but that is 21 damage using one of these big enchantments or Terror of the Peaks. But if you do have an elemental, and you know we're going to have quite a few elementals with high power here, we exile that, and when this dies, we get another Nova Chaser, but then we get the original back. It can really stack up. It's just a really cool bit of synergy. And of course, when it comes back as a Spirit's token, it has haste as well, so we can just get in for loads of damage. To go with this, Flamekin Harbinger is a 1 mana 1/2. Not exactly a massive dude, but actually, we'll talk about the big dudes first. Malignus is a 5 mana star, where the star is equal to half the highest life total among your opponents rounded up. He's going to be absolutely colossal. Damage that will be dealt to Malignus can't be prevented. This is just a massive dude, and when it comes back, it is a spirit already actually, so it already has haste and trample from our commander. Very, very nice synergy there. Thunderblust is a 5 mana 7/2 with haste, and it has trample as long as it has a -1/-1 counter on it. And it has persist. So even if we don't have our commander back on the field, this can go to exile. Go to the graveyard and come back with a -1/-1 counter on it. Cavalier of Flame is a 5 mana 6/5, so a pretty big dude. Can pay 2, creature control, get +1 so and gain haste until end of turn. When it enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards and draw that many cards, so filter through the deck, find the exact sort of elementals we want, and then when it dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. Just really, really good. Nice big beater. Oh, to go along with this, we've got these small dudes. Flamekin Harbinger is a 1 mana 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an elemental card, reveal it, and shuffle your library and put that card on top. And then these next two are nice little ramp cards that work excellently with our commander. Generator Servant is a 2 mana 2/1. Sacrifice it and tap it. Add 2 colours. If this mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. So with our commander on the field, this will come back as a spirit, and then we can sacrifice it. So we have 4 mana of these 2 activations, which is great, especially because it has haste. Catalyst Elemental is a 3 mana 2/2 elemental. Sacrifice it, add double red. So again, it comes back. We can have 4 mana. It works as a nice little ritual, and it can just be very powerful. And both of these can be brought back with Sun Titan. Moving on to number 2. Ingot Chewer. I talked earlier about how all of your enter the battlefield effects are doubled, and Evoke is a fantastic way to get them out. It's a 5 mana 3/3, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy target artifact. But you can cast it for its Evoke cost for 1 red. But that means that when it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice it. That's not that big of a problem with our commander on the field, because we get another copy of it that, again, destroys another artifact. But it's a spirit, and it's going to be a 4/4 with trample and haste. This is just fantastic, and Evoke is a really powerful thing that we can do with this. Wismare is a 3 mana 1/3 with flying. When it comes into play, destroy target enchantment. And its Evoke cost is 1 white. So we can destroy 2 enchantments for just the low cost of 1 white. And, you know, if we've got a bit of extra mana, we don't want to get 2 right then, we can just cast this as a vanilla body. Fault Grinder is a 7 mana 4/4 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target land. Evoke for 5. Not that good of an evoke cost, 5's still quite an investment, but blowing up 2 lands and having a tramply, hasty 5/5 is pretty decent. Spike Bellows, 6 mana. When it leaves the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to target creature, and its evoke cost is 3. And it's a 6/1, so it's going to trigger our Wear Ancient Treads and all those sort of enchantments and things, dealing tons of damage. Very, very cool. Then we have Revelark, which is a 5 mana 4/3, I think it is, with flying. And when it leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, that is a bit of a nombo with our absolutely massive elementals and, all those sort of things. But a lot of our smaller creatures, the guys that create mana, stuff like that, we can get them back. Or we could get Karmic Guide back. Echo is a really cool mechanic that works very well with our commander. Echo forces us to sacrifice it at the end step, and Karmic Guide is the best version of this, I think. 5 mana for a flying protection from black Angel Spirit. So it's already a spirit. Our commander gives it +1/+1 trample and haste, so we can swing in straight away with our 3/3. And then Echo. But when it enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So we can bring back one of our massive dudes. And then when the Echo cost isn't paid, we get another copy of Karmic Guide. It's absolutely fantastic. Revelark and Karmic Guide with any sort of sacrifice outlet does create a pretty fantastic loop. As you sacrifice the Revelark, bring back the Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide brings back the Revelark, and then you sacrifice the Karmic Guide, so on and so forth. So with any sacrifice outlet, like Thermopod here, who's a 5 mana 4/3, that you can sacrifice a creature to add a red to your mana pool, you can just get infinite of whatever that sacrifice outlet gives you. Very, very cool and powerful. Which brings me on to my number 1 card. Now, Hofri really cares about spirits. And Spirit Bond is a great little enchantment. 2 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can pay 1 white. If you do, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So straight away, that little spirit's going to have haste and trample. You can pay 2, sacrifice a spirit, target non-spirit creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Really, really nice. Can keep all your important creatures on the field until you want them to die, and then you get another copy of them anyway, and it's a spirit, and you can use that spirit to protect something else. And it's a nice little chain. It works really well with your commander, and he keeps him on the field. And keeping things on the field is important in this deck. Red-white, it's not the best reanimate colour, so just preventing things from getting to the graveyard in the first place is really quite good. Twilight Shepherd is a 6 mana 5/5 with flying and vigilance. When into the battlefield, return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that were put from the battlefield this turn. And it has persist. So this can come back twice, or become a token copy, if you so choose with Hofri. And it just stops everything from dying. And you can recast it again at a later date. Really, really good. Fate's Reward, a 4 mana instant. Return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Excellent little insurance against board wipes, and any lands that you can sacrifice, like the ones I showed earlier, they come back as well, so this can act as a nice little bit of ramp. Finally, Adakar Valkyrie is a 6 mana 4/5 with flying and vigilance. And then tap, whenever target creature other than Adakar Valkyrie dies this turn, return that card to the battlefield under your control. So, absolutely wonderful. Nice little replacement for our commander if our commander's maybe died or anything like that. It'll just keep our creatures on the field, and that's the main thing that we want to do. And those are the top 5 cards that I've picked out of this commander. He's a really cool little dude. Everyone loves a dwarf, and he just has incredibly powerful synergies. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any suggestions, please do let me know. I'd love to hear them. And please subscribe. Bye.